So guys, this is spurge, and it is one of the most difficult weeds to control in the garden for a very specific reason. It's a very low-lying weed, and so you can run over it with a lawnmower and you won't even hit it, even with the blades set down to maybe 1 inch. But this spurge has already started to go to seed, and it's a very, very bad thing if you hit this with a lawnmower or a weed eater, because it will quickly spread the seed throughout your lawn, and it grows very well in open, dry areas like this. You would think it would die from the excessive heat and the lack of rain, but it is doing quite well right here. I can already see seeds forming. So hitting this with a lawnmower or the weed eater is a terrible idea, because it will multiply this from just a couple of plants to literally hundreds of plants around your walkways, your sidewalks, the open bare spots in your grass. So I'm going to show you 3 very effective ways to get spurge under control where you won't see it in the lawn, and it'll save you a heck of a lot of money and a heck of a lot of time. So let's head to the potting shed and I'll show you exactly how to get rid of this. I'll give you a close-up before we go in there so you can see exactly what this looks like. Now I just wanted to give you a quick close-up of these 2 spurge plants that have popped up, and believe it or not, these will pop up in potted plants anywhere there's an open spot, but it can actually grow in grass as long as it has just the smallest little opening to get established. But these also can be an irritant to the skin, so there's a very important way. If you're going to manually remove it, you need to make sure you're very cautious, because it could cause a rash or a skin irritation. Let's head to the potting shed and we'll talk about all you need to know about getting rid of spurge, the undying weed that's forever in most people's yards, lawns, and gardens. So there are a lot of industrial products you can use to get rid of spurge, but I always try to use those as a last resort because of pets. I have a lot of pets in the yard. I don't want to kill my earthworms that might be growing in or near my garden. I want to keep them as plentiful as possible, and using some of those heavy-duty chemicals can kill a lot of things, especially honeybees and some of the other pollinators. So as a last resort, I will use it on different products around the yard, but this is something I can take care of just using some natural homegrown methods, some little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of work there, or a very unique tool that you can use that will get rid of spurge very quickly, and you don't have to worry about the seeds surviving. Now, before I put together my first formula here, I just want to let you know, if you're a member of the Pantry and a paid member, you can download this for absolutely free. You can print off a hard copy like this. You can download it to your device, your phone, your tablet, and you'll have a copy of it. It's about 10 pages, 9 or 10 pages, and it goes into extreme detail on this, and it'll give you a lot of added tips. So just going to let you know, if you're already a member of the Patreon, please take a look at that. That's one of the bonuses I'm giving you as a paid member of the Patreon. Now, the first method of getting rid of spurge is going to be a simple liquid formula I'm going to use. It's very low toxicity. As long as you take some precautions, this is not something like an industrial chemical where weeks and weeks and months later there's still a certain level of toxicity to that area. So this is something really easy to do. Second one is going to be a simple method that's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything to do. You just have to prepare one substance to get rid of spurge. And then the third one is a very unique tool that you can use to get rid of spurge, and it's also very, very low cost. So let's get started on our formula with just a few common items around the house. Now, our first ingredient is going to be vinegar, and vinegar comes in a lot of concentrations. This is the one that most people see on their grocery store shelves. It's about 5% concentration. This one is more of a cleaning type vinegar, is a lot more risk to breathing this in, so you want to make sure that you're wearing a mask and eye protection. I use this when I have a large area to spray and I just want to mix up a large batch in a backpack sprayer. And then this is the ultimate vinegar. If I just want to use pure vinegar and a little bit of soap, this right here, just one quick spray on any spurge or really any type of living plant, it will kill it very quickly. Now, this can be found at many hardware stores or sometimes Walmart, the big box stores. This is something I've only seen online, so 75% is a little bit more rare, but it is highly, highly concentrated, and also you just want to be very careful. This is referred to as industrial strength. So this is more of a cleaning, and then this is the one you find most commonly in your grocery store and most people have in their kitchen. And you can use any of the 3. We're using this today. As you go up in concentration, this would be for our formula, we're making 1 quart. So this would be a solid quart here. This would be about a 1/4 cup, and this would be just a few tablespoons in our concentration. And this would be pure. This would be added to a gallon of water, and then the last one also added to anywhere from ½ gallon to 1 gallon of water. So this is super concentrated, and of course it's not the only thing we're putting into our formula. There's 2 other ingredients. Now next is going to be our sticking agent, and by that I mean something that's going to make the vinegar stick to the plant itself. You can either use Castile soap, it's more of a natural soap, or you can use any type of dish soap. A lot of people don't like using Dawn, they want to use something that's a little bit more pure, but since we are creating kind of a toxic substance for plant life, I would say either one is okay, and you're going to need to mix this, not a lot, but in either case, it's going to be roughly about, I'd say about 1 tablespoon per quart, or maybe 2 to 4, depending on how much you're working and what type of device. Now, if you're using a backpack sprayer like I'm using, you could up it to 4 gallons, which means you're going to multiply the amount of product you're putting in there. There's one last item that's going to give it, our recipe, that's going to give it a much longer length of killing time for weeds and prevention, maybe possibly well over a year or beyond a year. So these two are going to be our sticking agent. Let's go on to that longevity product that you have to be much more careful about. Now, when you're killing spurge, this is something that I'm only going to use if I'm treating my gravel walkways, a sidewalk, cracks and crevices. Salt can permanently change your soil to make it inhospitable to plants. So this is something that you only want to use if you want zero plant growth, and it can last sometimes a year and well beyond a year because it permanently changes the structure of the soil. So just remember that this is something you don't want to use in your vegetable gardens, grass areas. If you have an open spot in your lawn, this will permanently make that area where nothing will grow. So using something as small as a container of iodized salt like this, or up to those 40-pound bags of pool salt I've spoke of before, you can buy either one. Now, this is a lot more expensive than the pool salt because you can get a 40-pound bag of the pool salt for only about $7. So this, when you talk about the total weight and the total measure, this is going to be more, but this is going to probably be better for the average person that's not dealing with massive amounts of weeds. Now, before I mix the formula, I just want to say a little bit about your applicators. These are for much bigger areas. I've got some swampy type areas in the yard that I can't drive a lawnmower on, and I don't like to walk in it when I'm trying to weed eat because I end up sinking into the mud. So I'll use something like this to give it kind of an overspray where I can knock down a lot of weeds, in not using the salt because I don't mind that growing back once or twice a year. But something like this is going to be very effective for much larger areas. A pump handheld sprayer like this, if you're doing driveway cracks and crevices, or if you're just doing a small spot treatment, you can use one of these solo sprayers. I like these if I just need to do a quick treatment on the driveway. I can just go around from spot to spot. So let's go ahead and mix up just 1 quart of our mixture, and then we'll go out and we'll hit a couple of the spurge that just keeps returning in my driveway. But once I hit it with this, it's going to work really well, and it's going to eliminate the spurge probably for anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years from now. All right, so let's mix up our quart size amount of our spurge killer. We're going to do, this is half a quart per one of these cups, so we're going to do 2 of these. And of course, like I said, this is just common 5% kitchen vinegar. Next, we're going to do 1 tablespoon. You can go anywhere from 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon, but I really want it to have a lot of sticking power. So I'm going to do a solid tablespoon, and then I'm going to eyeball it because I've got a lot of soap in there, and I probably should have did the salt first. But anyways, we're going to pour in roughly about 1 tablespoon of salt. Then I'm going to take my stir stick and mix this just for a couple minutes to make sure everything is dissolved together. Now, as you're going around the yard spraying, and I like spraying with these little solo sprayers, you need to just kind of agitate it, shake it up a little bit, because sometimes the soaps can separate, your salt can settle to the bottom of your container. So you just want to make sure that you keep agitating it as you go around spraying your spurge. Put in our funnel so we don't make a huge mess here, and make sure we don't overfill our solo sprayer. I believe this is going to be just fine, and then we'll go out and spray our spurge. And before we do that, I'm going to give you the absolute freest method, the lowest cost method to get rid of spurge that won't cost you anything. And then I'll finish up with a very unique tool that's also very low cost, but it's great for getting rid of any type of weed, especially spurge. Now, this is absolutely the cheapest way to get rid of spurge and a lot of other weeds that might be growing in your sidewalks, in your gravel ways, wherever you need to get rid of it. You have to be careful about using this around any plants you don't want to harm. So what we're doing is I've taken some water and just brought it to a heavy boil, nothing but pure water in there, and I just carefully add it to our thermos. And what I'm going to do is, you can use any type of thermos you might have, but the reason I like this one is that it does have a metal casing on it. It's going to keep the water hotter, and I can walk around my sidewalk areas, my gravel areas, and not have to worry about time running out. Now, if you brought it to a really heavy boil, make sure that you don't keep it pressurized, because when you unpressurize it, you may have a bit of steam or hot water getting onto you. So I just keep it unpressurized in case the water is too hot. Walk around those areas and just pour this on any spurge that might be popping up in your sidewalk or gravel walkways. Now this is really hard to see, but there's actually spurge. The seed has fallen, maybe a bird brought it in or maybe the wind blew it in, but the spurge is popping up right there. So I'm just going to take some of this and pour it into the crevice. You don't have to use but just a couple of ounces, and that will go down there to the root system and kill the entire plant. Within a day or two, you'll find dead spurge. And just be careful that if you're watering next to other plants, that this hot water doesn't run off and get into the root system there, because you could damage other plants as well. Now sometimes in midsummer I'll find that there's spurge spread out all across my grass areas and other places, and I don't want to damage grass and I don't want to use a whole lot of product, and these little devices right here will make it super simple. Something that is a propane torch or even a kitchen torch will work great at getting rid of spurge, but you want to make sure you hit it right in the center and then work your way out if you see seeds there. Now, seeds are not always present, so just look very closely. If you see some little tiny seeds there, and they're not hard to see, they look similar to maybe fennel seeds or something about that side, a little bit larger, but just look closely. If you don't see seeds, then just hitting it with a torch right in the center. Now I'm going to go out to that spot where I originally showed you, and we're going to use this device right here to quickly kill some spurge at a very, very minimal cost. Only probably just a very fraction of the gas that's in this tank. All right, let's assemble our torch here, and you may or may have not have seen one of these before. If you've never seen one, I'll put a link in the description, but you can also find these sometimes at hardware stores, but I thought this one was kind of unique, a little bit tricky in there and getting it threaded properly. Make sure you thread it all the way down. You don't want a gas leak there, and just make sure it's just lightly tighten there. But this type of torch right here will kill any type of weed, and it works perfectly on spurge. All right, so to light one of these, you just want to make sure that your setting is not on full blast. You just want it lightly started, and as you turn this, you can actually hear the gas coming out, so you don't want it at full blast. Also, you have, most of these have an igniter on it, so we're just going to pull off here so you can see the ignition process. And then turn your gas up. I know you probably can't hear me over the torch. You want to turn your gas up and hit your spurge. Now, one area that I would not recommend using one of these torches is if you're near any type of wood, anything combustible, any type of mulch or anything like that, any dry grass. So this is much better to use one of these torches out in open areas along sidewalks. But just remember, you don't want to take a chance on starting an accidental fire there. So this is going to probably get a shot from my mix formula as soon as I walk around the garden looking for it. But it's a lot more fun to hit it with this type of torch because it only takes a second and you don't have to worry about it coming back once you hit the root system right in the center of the spurge. So guys, one thing I want to point out about spurge, if you have a really thick lawn and lots of healthy grass, spurge is usually not going to pop up in those areas. Spurge really kind of prefers to be kind of alone by itself in an open area so it can spread itself out. I've seen spurge grow as wide as 2, maybe 2.5 feet in circumference, all from that one central crown, and I can usually just pull that out and get most of the taproot if I don't have my handy torch or any of the other products that I've talked to you about today. But anyways, if you keep your grass healthy, you won't have the problem with spurge, but you probably will have it in your sidewalk, gravel path walkways, or even in your mulch walkways. So spurge kind of prefers to be out in the open, and it also prefers to be in full sunlight, and it can tolerate extreme heat. So guys, any of these 3 methods will take care of spurge. The salt system in this particular spray will get rid of it for much longer. The boiling water does it very cheaply, and the torch method seems to be a lot more fun. Whenever I mention that, most people like the idea of carrying a torch around the yard and just setting the spurge on fire. But if you're planning on doing this by hand, remember you need to be wearing gloves, because spurge, the milky white substance in there, can be irritating to the skin, so it can cause a rash or anything like that. So if you're hypersensitive to plant chemicals, it definitely could be a benefit. One reason I don't normally pull my spurge by hand is the seeds will fall off, and in that same spot, instead of having one spurge plant, I'll have 5, 6, 7, 8, and it will just spread everywhere. So doing one of these methods other than the manual pulling is a lot easier, and it has much longer lasting effects. Guys, if you're interested in the PDF, you're a paid member of the Patreon, you can get this for absolutely free. I always like providing extra content for my supporters on the channel. If you want to buy it and download it without becoming a member of the Patreon, you can do that as well. So again, this provides a lot of added benefit, a lot more information, a lot of more detailed things that are going to help you get rid of spurge in your yard. So really, spurge to me seems to be the eternal weed. It seems to just live on forever and ever. But the actual truth is, it's those seeds. In less than 5 weeks, you can go from seed to a plant that's already producing new seeds. So it can multiply very quickly. Potted plants, my bonsai, spurge can pop up there. I think a bird might bring it in, and then you have a whole new plant started there. The seeds are back again in 4 to 5 weeks, and you just have spurge, the never-ending eternal plant that just doesn't seem to die. So guys, I really appreciate you watching, and have a great day.